Cool. Right, we're at 4 minutes past, so I will kick off. First off, hello everyone, I'm Josh. I work at Feedly, and I'll give you a bit more of an introduction about me after I've opened the webinar. So this is a webinar all about the SANS FOR478 course. And in particular, we're going to give you a peek at the content and do a live teach with real material from three parts of the course. So you can walk away with more than just some information about the course. You can actually take away some like lessons and best practices about cyber threat intelligence. Quick note on Feedly. So this is a CTO session, and CTO sessions are free resources for everyone in the community, but they are hosted by Feedly. So I'll be remiss if I did not mention the company and platform behind those CTO sessions. For those of you who don't know what Feedly is, it is a CTI vendor that focuses on gathering information from open source and more recently, deep and dark web. And it brings in tons of sources into the platform where all that information gets structured, tagged, and analyzed. And then we tag all of the useful threat intelligence concepts in a threat graph, which we then make accessible through different features. And we have features which take advantage of AI models to filter that information to bring you the most relevant articles and content to your industry, your intelligence requirements, or your particular company. In addition to that, we've been adding more features to help speed up different CTI workflows. So we have various AI tools that can help you create reports that are just using information from these specific reports you've selected. So there's a lot of like context engineering happening, as well as the ability to set up things like automated newsletters. And we have all sorts of integrations that use an MCP server or a REST API. So that's a quick tidbit on what Feedly is. Now let's progress into who the panelists are today. So I'm going to go in order here, and we'll start with Andreas. Andreas, can you come off mute and tell you who you are? Tell us who you are.
Thanks, Josh. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Andreas Sfakianakis, Technical Director at Palo Alto, Unit 42. I'm really happy to be here today presenting about the new work that together with Josh and John, we authored about the course. A little bit of background before we start deep diving discussing about the course. Yeah, I'm based in Greece. Most of my career, I'm based in Europe, so I also bring the perspective of the private sector. I was working as a CTI analyst in the banking sector in the UK for Lloyds Banking, Royal Dutch Shell in the Netherlands, and SAP, the technology sector in Germany. Last 3 months, I moved as a technical director of Palo Alto. In parallel, I'm also a SANS instructor, teaching SANS CTI course 4578. And I'm more than happy to speak about the new child 4478 and more than happy to speak about it and present a couple of slides from the class. Thank you very much, Josh.
Thank you, Andreas. And now, John, over to you. Who are you?
Hi guys, John Doyle here. I'm the Director of Cyber Threat Intelligence Services at Palo Alto Unit 42. I've got a long background being in this field, but I come from a digital forensics background by trade. So I've kind of got my bearings and grew up in CTI working at the CIA for about 10 years. And I, much like the CISSP, was kind of an inch deep and a mile wide, looking at all of the different intrusion sets before about 6 or 7 years in specializing on East Asian threats. I then jumped to Mandiant. During my time at Mandiant, I focused on Russia and moved into some incident response work before eventually spinning up a service line to help cyber threat intelligence programs actually build and mature their services. I've joined Palo Alto about a year ago and really excited to help with their commercialization of cyber threat intelligence.
Okay, perfect. And now just for a quick tidbit on me. So I'm Josh. I've been at Feedly now for about 4 years, and this has been my first job on the vendor side. Prior to that, I've been working on in-house threat intelligence teams, and in total have worked in the threat intel space for about 10 years now. I'm British, as you can tell by the accent, but I moved over to Canada originally years ago and started my career in Toronto. So I primarily worked in Canadian finance and tech, and then moved over into working for a US company by the name of Feedly. Beyond that, I do conference speaking and am one of the co-authors of the FOR478 course. Now, Let's begin with an icebreaker. This is a tradition on CTI sessions, and I absolutely love it. It is a finish the sentence icebreaker. So I'm going to start a sentence, and then I'm going to turn it over to you to finish that sentence and just give us the first knee-jerk response. The first answer is the best answer, and we can keep it as quick as possible. So, Andreas, the worst holiday I've ever taken was in.
Ooh, the worst holiday. I think it was in Crete. The best and the worst. So it's the place where I live. So quite a lot of holidays in Crete, but some of them were also really, really bad because of weather, because of different situations.
Nice. John, the worst vacation you ever took was.
London, by far.
Valid.
No, we,
Um,
we we just got there at a time where it was super busy and it was not particularly pleasant.
nice. How was the weather?
There or here?
London.
It was fine.
Huh.
It's fine.
Okay, interesting. Okay, next question. I got into CTI by Andreas.
Yeah. Hmm. I would say, but as a natural next step, So I was a trainee for ENISA. I was a tactical intelligence analyst in the next step, operational intelligence analyst in my job in Royal Dutch Shell, and a strategic analyst in SAP. So I went just like John would say, I went like a ladder, like step by
Hmm.
step. So for me, it was like a natural next step, each one of them. So naturally.
Naturally. Nice. John, you've given us a hint, but if you could elaborate, I got into CTI by.
Accident. By accident. The time in which I was graduating from university, the US economy had tanked and there was no jobs available. So I ended up going to grad school for studies in cybersecurity engineering or information security engineering at the time. That just happened to springboard, because it was in the Washington, D.C. area, springboard a career placement into government service. So, yeah, uh, sometimes things happen for a reason.
Absolutely. And I think that that is like the contrast between the like ladder approach and the accidental approach. I've noticed that there's a lot more people who tend to enter the field accidentally. So it's interesting to compare and contrast both your journeys into it.
Yeah. I think quite a lot of people joined from a completely accidental, like studying arts, and at some point you do CTI, or you're a journalist, and one day you're a CTI analyst.
Yeah, you pretty much described me there as well. Political science started out in like geopolitical risk and like crime risk analysis and physical threat intelligence, and then one day had the right conversation with the right person at the right time, and it was like a very small domino that cascaded, and here I am today. So from our panelists to our agenda, we are going to talk a bit about the course itself, and we'll like deliver some information on it, high level, and then I'll be peppering John and Andreas with questions in like a nice like AMA Q&A format. Then we're going to do a live teach from three of the modules. So we're going to teach each for about 10 minutes, maybe a bit more. And then the objective is to finish with a gap so that we can answer any questions that you may have had as we've kind of talked as we do the live teach. But feel free to chuck your questions into the chat at any point, and I'll be doing my best to answer them nice and efficiently. And yes, in case you are wondering, this is actually a sneak peek preview at the coin, which we are going to have available for students of FOR 478. This is like hot off the press. We just submitted this design. Up until now, we've just had this like blank spot in our electronic workbook. So you're seeing something that is completely brand new. Right. I will give you a very quick overview of the course itself. So FOR 478, this is a Cyber Threat Intelligence Foundations course. It is a 2-day course that is taught over 16 hours, and it's going to grant you 12 CPEs, and it contains no less than 8 labs. Section 1, or day 1, is more of the foundations of CTI. So we open up by talking about what CTI is, its evolution, what stakeholders are, how to do stakeholder analysis, how to do intelligence requirements, and then also collection management, and we move into some more like analytical workflows and tradecraft. Then for day two, we focus more on cyber operations and cyber threats. John does an excellent breakdown of all the major countries and their cyber operations internationally, and gives a really useful historical context and brings it right up to the contemporary day. And then we supplement this by also talking about cyber criminal operations, private sector intelligence, offensive operations, and then also hacktivists and fictivists, which is one of my new favorite terms. Beyond this, we then start to talk about the relationship between journalism and CTI and the ethical implications and perils of doing threat research, and especially when you publish it publicly. After that, we then dive into strategic, operational, and tactical stakeholders, focusing on their use cases and how you can support them. And those sections are super detailed and littered with labs. We do something that is brand new on this course and has never been done in any other SANS course, as far as I know. And that is we have panels where we have brought in experts from the field and multiple experts per panel. And in 4 of these panels, we pick a topic and we have a really interesting discussion with these leaders. So we've got panels on things like journalism and CTI, intelligence requirements, how to collect them, best practices, mistakes you can make, and how to avoid them. We've also got one on strategic stakeholders and use cases, and then also operational stakeholders and how to support them. And when I say that we brought on leaders in CTI, like I mean we brought on absolute trailblazers, huge names in the industry. I won't give away too much just now because I want you to be able to engage with that content and be pleasantly surprised. But you will recognize a lot of these names, and their insights and inputs are fantastic. Beyond that, we also have some labs. So as mentioned, we've got 8 labs, and we have brought in various tools, data sets, platforms, open source, closed source, in order to replicate real workflows that CTI analysts go through. But beyond that, we also wanted to give you as many like templates and things that you can take away with you after the course to bring back to your team or to just keep personally to help boost your career in the CTI space. So we do have resources on day one that will help you when it comes to mapping out your career in CTI. And then we have different platforms that help you with certain workflows, such as creating an automated threat intelligence newsletter. And we've got others that focus on things like malware analysis. And we give you exposure to MISP, so you get some like hands-on practice using a tip. So we cover a lot in 2 days, and it is a course which I'm very excited about and very proud of. So we'll be, so there'll be more information coming in terms of its release date. But what I can say, and this is one of those like brand new pieces of information that just got announced, is we have just launched and opened the beta. So as of today, you can go and get access to a discounted version of the course and do it as part of our beta testing. And we'll be launching this beta in May, on May 26 and 27. So if you're available then, and if you're really motivated to take the course, you can do it at a discount, and you can sign up today. And we'll be posting that link in the chat. I think Gabby will be posting that one. And this beta is open to anyone. So it'll be a live teach. It won't be recording, so we'll be talking with John, Andreas, and I, and we'll be running through the entire course, all the labs, all the material, and you'll get access to everything.
And yeah,
Right.
and we are intelligence analysts, and we also appreciate feedback. So since it's not the final version of the course, it's just one version before the final, you will also have the opportunity to shape and provide feedback on anything that you want to highlight, and we have time to fix it.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you do the beta, you'll have the influence to impact the final version of the course. So if there's things that you love, if there's things you hate, if you think we've got huge gaps, you can give us this information, and we action all of it. We did an alpha test back in April, and we just had a huge list of pieces of feedback, which we went through, we actioned, and we changed things. Like we looked at the flow of the course, we moved some things around, changed the timing, moved some labs earlier. So we really do pay attention to feedback. And I'm going to quickly pause to check the chat, and I see a question. So this is from Rick. If we take the beta, then take the final version, would we be eligible for the coin? Ooh, very interesting. If you take the beta, I believe that you'd be eligible for the coin. And I think that
We could probably make that work.
yeah, good question, Rick. Yeah, I think as an added recognition for people who support the beta, we could make coins available. And as we just submitted the coin design, we hadn't yet thought about distribution, but I really like that idea. So thank you for raising it.
Okay. Some people already start liking the coin, with the dragon.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it's a pretty cool design, let's be
Yeah.
honest.
Most definitely.
Mhm.
Right, now I'm going to ask you, John and Andreas, some questions about the course. The first thing is like, why? Why did we need a cyber threat foundations course when we already have FOR 578? John, feel free to take this away.
Okay, yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll start this one. One of the things that we realized Andreas and I and some of the other 578 instructors have been teaching this for the past few years is there was a demonstrable gap between the student base. It was pretty far and wide ranging, where we did have some people coming in with intelligence backgrounds. We would sometimes get experienced CTI analysts taking the class. Sometimes there were cybersecurity practitioners, incident responders taking it. And that's a really wide spanning experience and skill set across those groupings. So the 578 course makes a lot of assumptions about what your baseline knowledge is and experience. Whereas we were finding that people who only came in with a Intel background or maybe no background at all and didn't have any cybersecurity experience were very much overwhelmed by like day two. Day two's probably the most technical day in the course where we're actually doing incident response work. We're digging through logs. We're grepping through net flow data. Like for somebody who's not come in or doesn't have familiarity with using the command line for processing or doing file navigation and piping different commands together, that's a lot. That's actually overwhelming. And I had a few students that had reached out on the side, and Andreas can empathize with this. We do our best to bring people up to speed, but sometimes it's like, this is too much. Like, what did I get myself into? So realizing that a gap existed, we wanted to create something that was an easier transition and also filled some of the course gaps. So inside of Forensics 478, we cover things like how should a CTI program be built? How
Mm.
should it be structured in a way where it's going to have institutional backing and it's not going to be something that disappears during the next reorg? Like, what are the best ways to engage with stakeholders, right? There's some common themes in this field that we throw around, like stakeholder analysis, stakeholder engagement. No one really, but the discourse out there, there's not a lot that's focused on, well, how do you actually prep? Like, is there a checklist? What should I be thinking about? So this course does a good job in situating, orienting, and then providing actionable insights for you to sit in the chair and be the CTI analyst. I'm I know, in one of the sections Andreas created, it literally is like the CTI analyst workbench. What are the different
Mm.
tools that you'll be using on a given day? What is the different workflows and processes that you normally would encounter? Things that actually set the stage for, incident responders or intel analysts looking to transition into this field, or just aspirants who may or may not have any sort of recollection for what that is. Those more practical scene setting type elements were really key in our thought process for what we should build and how we should build it.
Nice one.
Sorry,
Thank you,
Josh, I
John.
realized that was a much longer question than you probably intended.
That's all good. No worries at all. No, I appreciate all of that context and information. For our next question, we're going to jump to the audience. And we have a question that is, can we hope for a certification in the coming months or years? And then part two, should we expect additional days to be added to the training? Andreas, over to you.
Yeah, so we want to launch first this class as a 2-day online course, and then based on the feedback that we get, the plan ideally is to expand it. But so far, we have a 2-day course. We have, if you go through the contents of the course, it's 2 full days. If I want to echo on what John just said, in 578 class, actually from myself, I was doing additional extra sessions on presenting how to build the CTI program. What is the CTI analyst workbench? So we consistently got the feedback, we identified this gap, and we said, hey, let's make a practical introduction class to set the scene for the advanced one. And yeah, I think this is all feedback driven. We are also intelligence analysts. Again, we appreciate the feedback, but I would expect so. But for now, it's a 2-day on-demand course with packed content, and yeah, try it and let us know how you like it or not, and how you find it useful. Because we try to be as practical as we can. If only when I started back in 2013, 2014, I had like the basics covered in the 2 days like this. This would save quite a lot of frustration in my early phases of my CTI career.
También.
Guarantee about this one.
John, I'm going to go to you for the first question here. Can we expect or hope for a certification in the coming months or years?
I sure hope so. This is definitely an area that we're exploring with SANS right now. The way it's structured for any of the shorter courses, there is no certification yet. So we are hoping that with this course, we can trailblaze. I mean, we've already done a lot of trailblazing with the introduction of these recorded panels, introducing folks to subject matter experts in the field. Some of the approaches we have taken to the lab, I think, are a little bit different also. And we've, been pretty well supported for doing this trailblazing. So we'll see what the feedback looks like here, and hopefully we can use that to push in a positive way to get SANS to consider maybe this course being the first one that they certify that's a SANS short course.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just underscore that we are very ambitious, and we I can see if this course hits the mark, if it's successful, if there's like demand in the CTI community, I can see us exploring all of these potential avenues. Okay, quick fire questions. Number one, this is a CTI Foundations course. Does it mean this is just for people new to CTI, or is there a broader audience? Andreas, over to you.
Yeah, so definitely we want to set the scene for people that want to join the CTI discipline and join the CTI team. What does this mean? Intelligence, CTI, it's part of intelligence, the more perspective that we have, the more diverse the teams are, the more backgrounds the people have from the CTI team, the better, the more perspectives are brought. So we would kindly, and don't get me wrong, John, I had students from very techies, like reverse engineers, to people that were writing fairy tales for children. They took the CTI course. So the spectrum is wide. We would love to have new joiners, but also people that already are members of the CTI team and want to do a check, like, do we do the basics right? I think it's also pretty relevant.
Perfect.
I'll amplify that a little bit. There's certainly elements in here where those who have taken 578 in the past will benefit from taking 478. Like we give a program charter template as part of this. We give a filled out intelligence collection plan with 25 or so different data sources. So there's definitely a lot of value add for those who have taken it. And just to touch on a question I saw come in, yes, we have deconflicted with Rebecca and Rob as they release this new version of the 578 course. So there is a little bit of overlap, but we made sure to minimize what that overlap looked like.
Perfect. Thank you. And thanks for jumping on that question from Derek. There are two more questions we'll address, then we'll move on to the live teach portion. First one is from Brenda. How does Feedly relate to this program? So Feedly relates to it because number one of the course authors works at Feedly, but more importantly, Feedly has supported SANS FOR 478 and SANS FOR 578 by giving free licenses to students so that they can do a lab that uses the Feedly platform. So for every student that takes either course, there is a lab that involves using some component of the platform to give people exposure to real tools out there and ones that are normally enterprise grade. And every student who takes the course gets a 45-day free license. So you have access to a full enterprise team account, all the bells and whistles. And we gave 45-day access because we want to enable people to like experiment and use these tools after they finish these particular course, so that they can like spend time reinforcing the learning during the live teach itself. So that is a quick snippet on the like partnership and relationship between Feedly and the SANS FOR 478 and 578 courses. Thank you for that question. I promise I did not plan that one. Right, we are going to move on to the live teach portion. Oh no, sorry, I promised we'd answer one more question. Okay, John, super quick. What job role frameworks such as CREST or NICE or DCWF will this apply to?
Yep. So for this course, we used the Mandiant CTI Analyst Core Competencies because it's the most robust one, dedicated, created specifically for CTI analysts. While NICE has a bunch of job roles, it's very government heavy, and those roles are broken out into multiple areas. So there's a lot of limitations and drawbacks with just looking at what a threat warning analyst is, because in reality, we're doing collections management, we're doing source valuation, we are applying additional skills that are otherwise broken out into their own discrete categories. Not everybody's the US government. They don't have thousands of analysts doing discrete roles. So we found that the core competencies actually work a lot better for those who are going to be working in private sector and also in government.
Perfect. Thank you, John. And I've just chucked a link to the framework you mentioned, the Mandiant CTI core competence, CTI analyst core competencies framework into the chat. It's a fantastic resource. I'm a huge advocate, and not just because we have one of the authors on the call. Right, for this next portion, we're going to do a live. Oh no, almost forgot to mention. This is key. Memes played a very important role in this course. So if you enjoy memes about CTI, you're going to see a ton of them in this course. And I had to throw this in there. Also, shout out to Nicole Hoffman. If you're not connected with Nicole Hoffman on LinkedIn, connect with her right now. She puts out the most fire memes tailored to CTI, and that original, that on point, and they absolutely like just blow away the competition when it comes to CTI specific memes. So check out her LinkedIn, check out her memes, and also you'll see a lot of them peppered throughout. So the Intel Barbie, we can't claim authorship. It was Nicole Hoffman. Right, live teach from 3 modules. We're going to go to Andreas first, and I'm going to stop screen sharing, but I am going to set a clock to keep us on time. So you'll see a little timer appear for 10 minutes, and then it's over to you, Andreas.
Yeah, let me know if you can see the screen.
We can see the screen.
Perfect.
Can you see my timer?
I cannot, but feel free. Yeah.
Cool,
Perfect.
brilliant. All right, over to you.
Oh yes. So we have quite fair. So everybody from our side who have different portions of the class. We author different parts. To my mind, and I have done this kind of consistently during the past decade and this decade, like how the CTI has evolved. It's quite interesting because we speak about this fun, but it's also good to speak with data about how cyber threat intelligence has evolved over time. The last couple of years, it's Rebecca Brown and myself working with SANS on getting an annual survey and do the CTI state of play. One of the, I guess, before I joined the whole project, was one of my favorite kind of projects because in a quantitative way, you can assess where the CTI discipline is going. Look at this one. One of the classic questions that we have been asking consistently from 2018 until this year. Look at this one. From 2018, 40%, 41, 42% of the organizations, of the respondents, they have a dedicated CTI team. And within 7 years, 7 to 8 years, almost more, half or more than half of the responders, they have a dedicated CTI team. So more and more, the CTI discipline and the function is an established one within cyber defense teams. So we see this kind of growth. When we go back and we look how everything started, think about out loud, like One was the first known cyber intrusion that we know of. We try to do like a little bit of the evolution and history. If you think when everything started from a from cyber threat intelligence perspective, we have to go back to the 80s. I don't know how many of you have read this book, The Cuckoo's Egg. Cliff Stoll, the author of the book, has also done a keynote in SANS CTI Summit in the past. I think it was 2017. But he is a physicist, astronomer, and he was the IT admin of some computer systems back in the 80s. And he identified the discrepancy between the billing and the usage of specific systems. So he was making hypotheses. He didn't have the capability to have everything in a data lakes and logs that we have today. He was printing logs like crazy. And by making the right hypothesis, he was able to identify and uncover in a very structured way. He was able to uncover an intrusion of a three-letter agency. So think about this one. If an astronomer did it by being very structured, we can do it as well. And this is what we also try to teach the students, like, hey, CTI, it's a discipline where you have to have consistency. Yeah? I rephrase Beatles song like consistency is all you need. Be consistent, hypothesis driven, and make the right assessment of who's going to be behind the cyber intrusion. The golden age of CTI, 2010 to 2020, if I may, maybe because I'm a little bit romantic when I started, but when we look at the timelines, I think 2013, 2014 was the timeline, was the period when everything started for CTI, and quite a lot of private sector started adopting cyber threat intelligence capabilities. This is quite interesting. And all was driven because APT1 report from Mandiant, which is one of the best intelligence reports that you can read if you want to go and do the CTI paleontology, as we call it. So what happened back in time? PLA Army, People Liberation Army of China, the military intelligence of China, were targeting private organizations from the West in the financial sector, chemical sector, oil and gas sector, because they want to steal intellectual property and transfer this fund to Chinese organizations. So it was an aggressive steal of intellectual property from the West and then was sent to Chinese companies. This, as you can imagine, this was asymmetric, or private organizations in the West that they didn't have even cybersecurity. It was IT security departments versus very, very well-resourced hackers, operators, computer network operators from China. So this was the turning point when quite a lot of CTI teams, and this actually I got my first jobs as a CTI analyst for building and evolving CTI programs. So turning point was like 13, 14 years ago. So it's still a discipline that is evolving. What is interesting, and this is also a sneak peek on next week, where we have the new version of the SANS CTI survey, and I welcome you to join. We see this year what we did, as apart from the CTI analyst, we didn't ask only the CTI analyst, but we also asked about 70 CISOs, Chief Information Security Officers, how they perceive cyber threat intelligence and how cyber threat intelligence influences the strategy. And look at this one. We reached a point where this percentage is valuable and extremely valuable. Even at CISO level, at strategic level, people start appreciating CTI and cyber threat intelligence influence the overall cybersecurity strategy. So we're getting there. And if we say that we are CTI analysts, more or less, there are two ways, two modes of working. The first one, it's to be cool. And hey, I'm cool now, I do threat research. So what does threat research involve? So this is more on the production of cyber threat intelligence. You have the data, you deep dive in the data, you analyze malware, the techniques, you track threat actors, their exploits, the vulnerabilities. You do the clustering from different intrusions, you get everything together, and you start tracking all this kind of naming conventions, the names that you hear about, APT28, Cozy Bear, and all these kind of names. These are intrusions that have been clustered together because they have some commonalities. Usually, this is where the vendors like thrive because they have a business kind of justification. This is the product that they sell. They have the visibility, so they may have endpoint network visibility, and they have the skill set. Usually, vendors they do have like invest quite a lot of human resources and have the analysts that are experts in analyzing threats. From the private sector, we use when you are a CTI analyst from the private sector, you may do threat research, but it's not the primary task that you do. Usually, in the private sector, we have this. I'm laughing because this image comes from 2014, if I'm not mistaken, and 12 years later, it's still valid. So the overwhelmed CTI analyst. What do you do? What do we do as analysts on the private organizations? What we try to do? We try to understand our stakeholders, which teams we support. We try to understand the environment, get the pain points. We call it intelligence requirements. It's more or less what are the questions that our key stakeholders ask. We try to identify what is the collection, and by building an intelligence collection plan, what are the collection that we need? Do we need to collect information from internal SharePoint, from newsletter, business newsletter? Do we need to collect intelligence from indicators of compromise? Maybe we need to collect deep and dark web, or to join ISACs and information sharing and analysis centers, for example, FSISAC. Or maybe you have to speak with our government to get the information, store it, baselining, structured in a very nice way, utilize our CTI analyst workbench, and in the end, understand which of these kind of collection and information is relevant. And think about it, if you work in CTI teams now in private organizations, one of the most difficult part is to identify what is relevant from the tons of information that you receive. So relevance determination, it's very difficult nowadays. We have ways to encompass like our intelligence requirements are the drivers, the compass on what is relevant and what is not. So we make this information relevant for our organization, and then we disseminate not only to the technical kind of infrastructure, the security stack that you can see at the right side of the slide, but also to our stakeholders. So our goal as CTI analysts within private organizations is to support decision making, whatever that is. Stop an attack, be proactive against the TTP, support the CISO's decision, and that's it. Our goal is not to track threats and collect indicators. Our goal is to satisfy the requirements and support the decisions of our stakeholders. And this summarizes a little bit on the evolution and a couple of things that private organizations and threat researchers do. So hope you enjoyed it, guys. Josh, back to you.
Thank you very much. I forgot about the like Oscars music.
I thought that was a clever way to shame Andreas and probably me when it's my turn.
Now it's your turn right now, John. So good luck. I'll hit 10 minutes on the timer and over to you, John.
All right. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Very cool. I can't see your timer, so we're just going to go with this. All right.
You'll hear the music.
So you've just heard from us about stakeholders, what we're looking for, team structure, and now we move on to talking about how to satisfy those requirements, what those fundamental pieces of information that we'd want to collect in order to help satisfy those. Just as a quick reminder, this is where we are in the course. So we are now moving from the planning and requirements phase to the collections phase. So we show you here the intelligence lifecycle, one of these seminal frameworks that we use as part of this field that really helps guide everything we do. The purpose of this section as we go through it is talking about what the discrete elements are. So we'll call those essential elements of information, EEIs, in just a few moments, and how we can actually understand the various data sources that are available to us that might have those insights that we can then collate into a structured framework. We'll eventually call that an intelligence collection plan. But before we go there, it's really important for us to talk about this notion called the OODA loop. The OODA loop, while it does have a rich origin in military parlance, for us, it's something that we share a lot of parity with here in the CTI discipline. The OODA loop is a four-phased process here that is designed to help give a strategic advantage to individuals and organizations. We observe, we orient, we decide, we act, we observe again for impact and changes. The goal being, if we operate and move through our OODA loops faster than our adversaries, we have the strategic advantage. The point I like to say here is, in CTI, we are an enabling function. We're part of a cyber defense element, a broader construct inside of cybersecurity. Working together, we move around the OODA loop a lot faster. And by design, we try and outpace the adversaries who are trying to get into our network and do nefarious things. That's a nice tee up for how we start this section, really focused on what a collection management lifecycle looks like. So we give you a 4-step process here. Understand your stakeholder requirements, which Josh just talked about in the last section. Moving to actually deconstructing the data sources. What are we looking for that's going to allow us to answer those stakeholder requests? So they have intelligence needs, they have pain points that they're trying to break down. There are ways that we, as a customer service, customer first type field, can go about supporting them. So we take these different elements, we break them into different parts. We then evaluate whether or not what's available inside of our environment through different logging sources, and then what we might need externally to satisfy them. It's worth noting, as we go through the process of creating a collection management plan or an ICP, intelligence collection plan, we want to at least evaluate it on an annual basis. This is going to provide relevancy. This is going to allow us to make business justification for either decommissioning, offboarding, making engineering requests, or a whole myriad of other actions. All right. Sitting between intelligence requirements and collection sources are these essential elements of information. It is a bridge that functionally allows us to connect the two. Intelligence requirements by most organizations are typically laid out in a spreadsheet. Look, that's just what we operate on. It's tried and true. That's where we're going. Based on these intelligence requirements, we need to eventually get to the point of, okay, what data do we have to satisfy them? Like we've got a lot. We've probably got 4 or 5 priority intelligence requirements, and then another 10 or so general intelligence requirements here. What's the data sets that are available to us? So if we take a look at the essential elements of information, break this down. So we use this requirement here. It's pretty granular understanding of threat actors that have compromised organization in the past. Cool. Well, how would we actually support that? How would we be able to tell? What we're looking for is different host-based and network-based indicators. So we're looking at activities that adversaries have taken while they are on a victim's box. So in this case, we're looking at our incident response data that we have historically collected. We're extracting the file artifact that changes to the registry, anything that's taken place on the disk itself. Then we're also looking at any outbound access, so those network-based indicators. We're taking this and we're correlating it to see whether or not this has been attributable before in the past. That then showcases our threat realities and gives us a focus area to then make a determination as to, is this something that we repeatedly see? And if so, what do we need to do to focus on it? So we can look internally at where our data sets are. So in this case, we're looking at incident response tickets. Most IR teams submit their spreadsheet of dooms in ticket format, whether it's partial or fully. We're looking at our SIM to do historical lookbacks. We're looking at any captures for net flow or packet capture in the environment that we can then pivot on to see, are we currently seeing it? From there, identifying any gaps, we can move to external sources. We're probably not going to have, as an organization, the best visibility or fulsome understanding of what APT42 activities are. So that's going to require us to move outside of just our narrow band of what's available to us inside of the house. So how do you actually do this? Well, we can translate it. So let's break down what the host-based and network-based indicators are. We give you a definition up here. I've already spoken to it, so I'm just going to kind of highlight elements here in the table. When we're looking at what these host-based indicators are, we're looking at files, file names, file hashes. We're looking at guilty processes that we're running, processes being the fundamental backing behind what has executed on the system itself. We're looking at configurations, behaviors, and user activities in a temporal bounding. So this is where the digital forensics discipline comes in and has a very nice overlap with what we're trying to capture here. Most analysts who come into this field who don't have that cybersecurity background really are kind of left wondering, like, well, where do we go? What do we do? This is it. This is the starting point for when we're looking internally. Now, if we flip this over and we actually apply one of the frameworks in this field, we've looked at different categories that are being satisfied that we're trying to satisfy as a function of that intelligence requirement. So we're looking at network-based indicators. Well, they come in a few different forms and a few different categories. So we've given you some examples of what they are and where do you find them. So if we're looking for command and control, if we're looking for tunneling activity, if we're looking for beaconing outbound because there's malware resident on our system, where do we go for that? There's actually a whole host of different logs. So this is our mapping. So while the EEIs act as that translation layer, it allows us to move back and forth between, do we have the right data sources? Is it being collected properly? And if it is being collected, is it available to us? Or do we need to do some engineering work to get it into a system that we can then do analysis on or research on top of to produce finished analysis? And the way I'll leave off is, once we have a good understanding of what those data sets are and those data requirements, we take those tactical, discrete data sources and we compile it. Compiling this into an intelligence collection plan is one of the foremost things that will help orient a team as it is thinking about how to expand its growth and reach in the organization. So we give you, as part of this class, this spreadsheet. You'll have it inside of your ISO file. I'll point you to that in just a second. Sorry, if we were in the class, you would. Here, you get just a snippet of it. So you can see in the operating system, at the email gateway, at the sandbox, at the different security appliances and IT appliances that Andreas was starting to call out, what's the relevance there? So we break it into source type. We give you a description of what this particular thing has in the CTI use cases. So this is a mapping. Where we deviate a little bit from what's out there in traditional parlance is a mapping to different vendor solutions. And as part of the template we provide in the course, you're not going to have all of these in your environment, but we've picked probably the top 3 or 4. You get the spreadsheet, you have it already filled out. Now you tailor it and modify it, and you look like a rock star to your leadership team. That's all I've got on this end, Josh. I think that is a good way for me to wrap up my section here on intelligence requirements and collections.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, John. And in the interest of time, I'm going to teach for 5 minutes, and then we're going to pause and take any questions. So if you in the audience have questions, leave them, get them into the chat, and we'll make time to answer those before we wrap up today's session. So for this, I'm going to screen share and click a button that's not responding. Ah, interesting. There we go. Love technology sometimes. Okay, so I am going to talk a lot about stakeholder analysis, but even more about intelligence requirements. So this is going to add some more context to intelligence requirements, which John has already introduced. And we're going to dive a bit deeper on intel requirements, and then you kind of see how they feed into a collection plan. Let's start with some definitions. There's a lot to intelligence requirements, but the most important definition is intelligence requirements are the formal codification of intelligence support needs for CTI stakeholders. Now, they come in many different shapes and sizes, but generally speaking, there are 2 umbrellas for intel requirements: enduring intelligence requirements and priority intelligence requirements. Enduring can be thought of as the longer term, more sustaining Intel requirements. They change less frequently, and they're often called standing Intel requirements or general Intel requirements. These will be set and they will remain not completely static, but largely you expect them to hang around for like the medium to long term. But priority Intel requirements or PIRs are completely different. These are a subset of IRs that are highest priority and they require immediate focus because they're highly time sensitive. So these are things that you jump on and respond to more quickly. And there is a key nuance that I want to highlight here, and this is the difference between priority intelligence requirements, PIRs, and prioritized Intel requirements. We often conflate and overlook this nuance in the private sector, but your PIRs are those short-term, time-sensitive Intel requirements. Your prioritized IRs focus a lot on a list of Intel requirements that have been given a priority. So these can be longer standing IRs, but they've just been given some kind of prioritization or gone through a prioritization matrix, so you know which ones require the most time and attention. Why are IRs so important? A team with IRs is far more cost efficient. The operations are focused on the needs of your Intel stakeholders, and you aren't left wondering what to work on because you've got this North Star guiding your entire program and the intelligence lifecycle. A CTI team without IRs is like wearing a blindfold, trying to pin a tail on a donkey. And trust me, I've been on a CTI team where we didn't have IRs, and you are constantly wondering, is this what the stakeholder actually needs? So stakeholders, what are stakeholders? We talk about them a lot in CTI. We say how important they are, but to actually define them, stakeholders are individuals or entities who require threat intelligence to make informed and justifiable decisions about future actions. Supporting decisions is absolutely key in CTI, and we see that with our stakeholders. These actions may be taken at any business level, be that strategic, operational, or tactical. So don't think of your stakeholders as a monolith. Think about them as potentially being anyone in your organization that needs threat intelligence. I'm going to skip past these two because I think these are actually this slide I do want to quickly pause on. So why are stakeholders so important in CTI? Because again, we talk about them a lot. Stakeholders create the demand for CTI. Without stakeholders, it's incredibly difficult to justify CTI because there isn't that demand that's met with a supply of CTI analysts. But engaging CTI stakeholders is an art. It involves doing stakeholder reach out, telling them about your mission, aligning with their mission and their needs, having someone help you broker a trusted introduction, or building up that relationship informally so that you can go and approach them as a trusted individual, and then setting expectations about what CTI can do for their program and what it can't do for their program. And then it's very important, once you have understood their intel needs, go and deliver on that service. Meet the cadence that you agree upon and deliver with excellence so that you can maintain a good, strong stakeholder relationship. We can categorize stakeholders in different ways. Here are a couple of frameworks. Something that I think is very important, though, is whenever you're engaging with a stakeholder, lead with empathy. It's one of the most important skill sets that you can develop as a CTI analyst. It helps you understand your stakeholders, build better relationships, and also understand threat actors and their behavior a lot more efficiently. And our stakeholder engagements, our conversations with them, the formal interviews are a great opportunity to educate the stakeholder on CTI. I'm now going to pause because the time is coming up. And I'm going to stop that timer, and I promised that we would spend some more time answering questions. So turning over to audience questions, there are a couple. Will the beta be live online? Yes, the beta will be live. Thank you, Rick, for jumping in there with the information about the beta. It's going to be running on the 26th and 27th of May, and we're going to be running it at 8:30 a.m. EST up until 5 p.m. EST. Any other questions about the course material or about any of the topics that we've been teaching on so far?
Yeah, in the meanwhile, let me reiterate what Rick asked, do CTI analysts get indicators from DFIR practitioners? So again, you will see quite a lot of more information in SANS CTI survey. CTI teams look quite, all these bleeding computers, all the external intelligence, but they neglect some time looking internally, yeah? the incidents from that happen within the organization. So Rick, this is a very big yes. And we try to communicate this one and teach in 578 and 478 that CTI teams should work very closely with incident response, the DFIR forensicators, and make sure that these two teams are sibling teams. You look when the threat actors have already been in your organization. So think about this one. And you get the technical, the behaviors, indicators, and anything that the CTI team, the DFIR team did based on their analysis.
Perfect. Thank you, Andreas. And we do have a question from Derek. Does the course dip into supporting threat hunters and threat hunt efforts?
We do. Yeah. So on day 2, we break out different stakeholder types, what their roles and responsibilities are, and then how CTI can support them with different workflows and intelligence needs. As we move to operational and tactical level stakeholders, there's a whole section that we've created on threat hunting. So looking at threat hunting, looking at the maturity models that exist, kind of putting ourselves in the framework and mindset of what it is that they do, realizing that threat hunting is kind of that proactive side of the house and how we can support it. That section comes in close proximity to where we have incident response support too.
Perfect. Thank you very much indeed, John. With that, we are now at the top of the hour, so I'm going to stop screen sharing, but I am going to flag something that we've got coming up. So this is in addition to the CTI session on FOR 478 today. If you are working in cybersecurity and you're feeling a bit like stressed and a bit burnt out, the next CTI session is going to be directly relevant to you. And we've got some absolute rock stars who are going to share their research and their expertise and their personal experience with burnout. So this is a CTI session that I'm going to chuck a link to in the chat. It's a conversation about how not only to identify burnout in CTI, which is something I imagine Andreas, John, and I have all brushed up against, but also what to do about it if you do start to experience that. So this will be applicable to anyone in any part of cybersecurity. It's not CTI exclusive, and I really wanted to give a shout out to that just because I think it's going to be a very important conversation. With this, if you want any more information about the FOR 478 course, you can reach out to myself, John, or Andreas on LinkedIn. And Gabby posted a link for the beta information, and I'll also post a link to the website that we've got on 478, which just has like a lot of the contextual information. With that, I am going to stop talking and wrap us up. Thank you all very much for your time and attention. Andreas, John, thank you both very much. I appreciate you making time for this. I know you've got packed schedules. And as mentioned, feel free to reach out to any of us if you want to ask questions about the course. Huge thank you. We'll send out the recording after this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Cheers.
Bye for now.